about 8 years ago, I got a work from home job. Before that was all the rage. And I found myself having a full day and no immediate supervision over my shoulder. So I had a list of things that I could get done, but I was really on no set schedule. My boss was 3 states away, and I could really do what I needed to with my days. And in fact, sometimes my projects stretched more into the evening because I didn't have boundaries. Well, then as life evolved, I got married and had kids and started adding extracurricular activities and realized I didn't have as much time to get all the things done for work that I used to. And then I go back and think, what did I spend all my time on when I didn't have these constraints? So today we're going to talk about how you can do more in less time.
Welcome to Diary of a Worthy Pursuit,
where we talk about how you can get what you truly want in life and in business.
That is crazy. The work from home before work from home is cool.
I know, it was trendy. I was setting the curve.
Nice.
But it was so interesting because there's some rule that says that your work will expand to the time
Parkinson's law.
that you allow it. So because I gave it 8 hours, sometimes it would go to 8 or even 10. And now I look back and I think I can get more done in 4 hours than I used to be able to get done in 8, but it was because I didn't have a limit. I didn't need to get it done.
Just expanded.
Yeah.
So what were you doing with your time? Were you just typing slower or were you scrolling slower? What was the...
There was still scrolling way back then. I think I just got distracted easier. And I wasn't as deliberate and intentional about how to get things done. I also, early in my career, got stuck in I'm going to do professional development. So I'm going to read all these articles in the morning or listen to this thing.
Right.
And when I started my day that slow, I realized it was hard for me to get back on track. End up getting sucked into a LinkedIn hole. It was professional because I was on LinkedIn.
Nice.
But I'd still get sucked into a hole. And then you're like, oh yeah, I should probably get moving on this before I have a meeting at 2 o'clock.
Right.
Have you ever had those moments in life?
Oh yeah. Yeah, times when you schedule a meeting at 10 a.m. and you think, well, I could go to the office and then go to that meeting, but if I do that, that's kind of a waste, so I just stay home. But you're not staying home actually doing stuff. You're staying home I don't even know what I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's laundry. Maybe it's playing with the dog. I couldn't even tell you. But it's like, oh, that 10 a.m. meeting was perfect time.
Right. I was going to have so much time to get things done before the meeting.
Or if I would have scheduled that at 9 or 8 or 7:30, whatever, I still would have made it on time, and I wouldn't have wasted all that other time.
And now I'm just rolling into the meeting as the first thing of my day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that.
So, I don't know. It just expands, right?
Right. So for whatever reason, I think we have plenty of opportunity to get more done in less time, especially because there's so much more demand on our time as your life expands and gets full. Hopefully work is not the only thing in your life. Maybe you've got family or friends, social commitments, extracurricular activities, whatever that might be. So how do you fit it all in?
It's interesting you say that because I am in the process of, I'd say back in the napkin, starting another business.
Okay.
With a couple buddies.
Interesting.
And as I was solving a problem in my current main business, I'm thinking, if I start another business, that's going to be more headaches, more stuff, right? And it's cool because it's kind of honeymoon period with the business, but it's still more stuff that you got to do, right? Someone's going to send an email about X, Y, or Z. I'm going to have to learn, read some articles, attend some things. I'm like, do I have time for all that? Could I make time for all that? And what's the end result? It's kind of one of those, maybe before I get started too far down this, I should think, is this really what I want?
Yeah.
Or is this serving the main goal kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's a lot about what we talk about here is this whole idea of time freedom, right? Creating a business that you want and enjoy and not one that makes you in a prison.
Right.
So
we build our own prison. Isn't that the truth?
So I love this idea that you were intentional and took a step back.
It was tough though, because every entrepreneur, right? We have 50 million ideas every single day.
Right.
And we can act on 1, maybe 2. And it's very hard to just be like, this is an amazing idea, right? We got 50 million. Let's say 20 million are good ideas. And to tell yourself no is tough.
It is tough. Well, it's tough enough to tell other people no, but to tell yourself no is a
Yeah.
whole different story.
Settle down, James. Back to work. Right?
One thing at a time, right? One thing at a time. All right, well, we've got 5 tips for you today to help you do more in less time, so maybe you can tackle some more of those exciting side ventures.
Another business.
All right, so one of the most important things you can do to improve your performance is sleep. Now, before you all start rolling your eyes at me, it is amazing how many of us don't get enough sleep. I read a statistic the other day that said that operating on 4 to 5 hours of sleep consistently is impairing your judgment so much that it's like operating your business while drunk.
Wow.
And so if you think about how impaired judgment is when you're drunk versus, then saying, I'm going to make all these important business decisions or go talk to that client on 4 or 5 hours of sleep, that's scary.
Yeah. I can tell when I don't get enough sleep, I start making stupid decisions. I don't necessarily mean in business. I just mean like when you're grabbing a whatever container to put leftovers in or something like that. Like you grab something and then you put it in the fridge empty or something.
I put the protein in the fridge and I put the milk in the cupboard.
Sure, something like that where you're just like, okay,
yeah, right.
my brain is not firing on all cylinders
But
right now.
what else is really interesting about that is there's then this this confidence in our decision making almost to the detriment, right? So sometimes if you're impaired by other substances, you tend to think that you're making really great decisions in the moment. And the same happens when you don't get enough sleep, is you don't have enough processing power. Your brain can't focus enough to make a good decision, but it also thinks it's making great decisions
Yeah, right.
in the
We got
moment.
this.
Right? Like, and maybe that time in college when you're like, oh, dancing on that table or walking out to a bar in negative 30-degree weather in a tank top, not that we ever did that, was a great decision. And then you're like, oh, that was terrible. But you don't know it in the moment because you're so impaired. So I find it amazing when I talk to business owners and say, so just out of curiosity, how much sleep you get in a night? And they're like, oh, I operate on 6. It's so great. I'm working so well on this and I'm getting so much done. And it's like, oh, really? How long did it take you to, write up that proposal? Oh, it took me like an hour and a half, but I was whatever. It's like, oh, probably could have done that in 30 minutes if you had 8 hours of sleep.
Oh, 8? Holy cow. I don't know if I could sleep 8.
Yeah, so what do you sleep?
I sleep 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So research says 7 to 9 is what
All
most
right.
of us need.
8, I mean, on the weekends, I suppose I sleep 8, but I don't know. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Not maybe, I probably am. Because I feel like I use weekends to catch up on sleep.
Okay.
And I say that because there's no alarm on the weekends, or there's usually not an alarm.
Yeah.
Unless I get a kid's baseball game unnecessarily early.
Fair.
Uh,
Are they unnecessarily early?
Sometimes we had a 8 a.m. game in some town that was not in our backyard.
Sure.
And you got to be there, whatever,
And
half
the
hour
travel and all
early
the
and
things.
travel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting the kid up.
That's a whole
Yeah, I think that
process.
was a 5 in the morning ordeal.
Oof.
Whatever it was, it did not feel like a Saturday.
Yeah.
Because that alarm went off and you're like, oh, I thought it was Saturday.
Uh-huh.
Right? Your brain's like, no, this is catch-up time.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I had read somewhere that you're not supposed to do that, but I do that.
Well, I think we have to let ourselves flex for life, right? Sometimes, you can't keep your rigid systems all the time. But do you go to bed about the same time every night?
Yeah, aim for it.
Yeah. So I think that that's a big secret here,
Yeah.
is trying to go to bed at the same time every night. So that's your action step. Try to go to bed at the same time, because then we're more likely to wake up about the same time, and we've got a little bit more of a routine to perform at our best. I was reading something about the performance of professional athletes and
okay.
how, you think when you think about like football players making millions of dollars or basketball players or whatever, that they're going out and partying and doing all the things. But the ones who are successful and are in the game the longest are the ones who prioritize getting to bed every night, which a lot of entrepreneurs brag about how little sleep. Or Silicon Valley, I feel like you hear
Yeah.
all these stories about, I only operate on 3 hours of sleep.
Right.
I don't feel like it's something to brag about.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot. Hear that a lot with Elon Musk, where he's like,
Yeah,
I work 1 million
right.
hours a week or whatever. And I'm like, do you? I have friends, one friend in particular I can think of that would gloat, still does, about working 90 or 100 hours a week. And I'm like, you're punched in. or you may be at work, but are you
Right.
really working that 100 hours? Because you should own the company, or you should be, I don't know, somewhere higher level than what you are, accomplishing what you are, because there's other people around you that are not putting in that kind of time.
Right.
And it looks like you're getting similar results.
So, sorry, I geek out in all this research about sleep, but I was reading something the other day that said they did a study where people worked 80 hours a week and one set, and then the other set pretended to work 80 hours a week, and their managers couldn't tell any difference.
Oh, I have employees like that.
But it's interesting because then you're like, well, what are they really accomplishing
Sure.
more in that time? You know, in fact, an article done by, I think, the University of California said that 50 hours is about the max. And if you end up working 70, then really that extra 20 hours is just junk time because your brain isn't focused.
I imagine it's law of diminishing returns to a point.
Absolutely.
And I suppose the 80-20 rule, you could look at 80% of your hours were not as productive as 20%.
Right.
Or break it down by the minute. Mm-hmm. Just as I suppose 80% of your employees are not as productive as the top 20%.
Right.
Like I was just listening to a podcast where they're talking about 80-20 rule, that you can't beat it. Because it's like if you got, let's just say you have 100 employees for ease of math, right? And 80 of them are doing okay, but not as great as the 20 of them that are doing 80% of the work. And if you got rid of those 80 that were not doing so well, the remaining 20, the rule would then apply to them.
Oh,
The 80,
wow.
like it wouldn't be like, now I got 100%.
Right. All top performers.
Yeah.
Not the
So you
case.
kind of have to keep a little bit of the slackers to maintain your 80-20 balance.
Well, fair. All right. Now we know.
So yeah, don't aim for them. They'll show up on their own.
That's good to know. All right. So tip number 2, how to get more done in less time, is to cut the list. So many of us operate with to-do lists that are crazy long. I remember I was working in a corporate environment and I used to carry around a notebook, and it was like my notebook of gold. Everything was in that thing, and if I lost it, it was like my brain.
Oh.
I captured everything, but I also captured everything.
Oh, okay.
So my to-do list would be like the front and back of 2 pages, and every time I would sit down to try to do something, I'd get so overwhelmed by like, I have 80 things on this list.
All right.
And it didn't work for me.
No, you get 3 done.
No. Well, if you're lucky, you get 3 done. And even if you do get 3 done, then you're like, well, look at these, whatever, 77 I didn't get done. That's depressing.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to write it down just to cross it off after you did it, right?
I'm very guilty.
Record
of that.
podcast. Nailed it.
Check. Done. Drop the kids off at school. Check. Done.
It's interesting to force yourself to be realistic
Yeah.
about what are you actually going to accomplish today? Mm-hmm. And is that something that you can? Are you willing to do it? And what happens if you don't get the other stuff done, kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, so when you look at that list, 40% of that stuff is never going to get done.
Never.
Never.
Yeah.
You're just never going to prioritize it. It's never going to be the most important thing on your list. So you just got to kind of make peace with that and move that off.
You know, it's interesting you say that. You remind me of a story with my wife. My wife's got her retirement stuff.
Okay.
We keep her money separate. She's got her retirement stuff, and it's with a financial plan that's not doing that great.
Okay.
So I'm like, hey, why don't you move it over here? Mm-hmm. And I did the same move, and it's been lucrative. It's been all good.
Awesome.
And I'm like, it's an hour of your life. And I had this email that came up that I sent to her reminding her to do this. I've been snoozing that email every day or every few days for probably a year and a half. Because one of those, like I snooze it to a time when we're going to be together and she's got nothing going on. And I'll look at that and be like, hey, did you do that? And she's like, tomorrow night. Tomorrow night I'll take care of that.
Yep.
Or next week Sunday, we don't have any games or anything. I'll take care of it next week Sunday.
Yeah.
And then just kicking that can down the
Right.
road.
Exactly.
And it's one of those like, should I continue to be concerned about this, or should I just stop caring? Because she obviously doesn't care.
Right. It's all about priorities, right? What else is clearly there's something else that she's prioritizing filling that time with.
Yeah, naps. I don't know. Something.
That's important. Sleep is a
Yeah,
performance.
right. That's top of her list. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I try to set my days and I try to coach my clients to do 3 things. And at first you're like, 3 things only? That's not going to get me where I need to go. But then when you realize, but I'm actually going to do those 3 things and not just stare at my list, let's just do a little math here. So let's say we have, out of 365 working days in a year, or days in a year, let's say you have 250 working between
All right.
weekends and whatever. Make my math easier,
Sure.
too. And you get 3 actual things done a day. You don't say you're going to get them done, but you actually get them done. At the end of the year, you have 750 meaningful things you did this year. And that's huge. I mean, who isn't crushing their goals when you get 750 things done?
Right?
So that feels a lot better than keeping a list of 200 things that I never touch.
So when you say a thing could be as simple as filling a water bottle, or a thing could be start a podcast or something like that.
Yeah.
Like what is the depth of the thing?
So that's a really good dichotomy, but I'd say it's somewhere in between.
Okay.
So when I set my daily big 3, I'm looking at what are my quarterly goals. So I look at my quarterly goals every week. So I have
Oh, wow.
vision to them to make sure that what I'm doing this week is at least taking one small step toward that quarterly goal. So if at the beginning of my week, I say, what's something I need to accomplish this week to move toward that goal? And then at the beginning of each day, I say, what's something I need to do to hit that weekly goal? And so my big 3 today were record podcasts, have lunch with a connection, because hopefully we'll be power partners so we can refer each other. And then the other one is to go home and work on my Facebook ads.
All right.
So those are my big 3 for today. But your days bend and flex based on your priorities. So tomorrow, I have a cousin getting married this weekend.
Oh, nice.
And we have a lot of girl cousins on that side. So tomorrow we're doing a spa day. So
Doesn't sound terrible.
no, it's going to be great, right? Everyone needs their little balance. So tomorrow, my big 3 are, I'm going to drive down to Galena, enjoy the spa day. I'm going to make it home in time to put my kids to bed. I have a big 2 tomorrow.
Wow.
So, that
Nice,
sounds
all right.
pretty great, right? But then there's other days where your big 3 might be, I need to return 5 business calls, I need to write some new employee training, and I need to take off at 3 o'clock to make it to my kid's baseball game.
All right. I like it.
All
It's very
about
cool.
balance.
It's very rigid.
Yes.
Yeah. And you find that you typically accomplish the 3?
Most of the time.
Okay.
There are a few days where I end up kicking the can down the road because something else pops up, right?
Sure.
So,
A fire somewhere, whatever.
right. But
Okay.
I think it's also important to have a not to do list.
Oh.
So what are the things that I'm going to commit not to do so I have time to do these other things?
Oh, I like that.
So this kind of goes to another one of our tips, but it's control your distractions. So my biggest distractions are, I will completely admit, it used to be online shopping, though I have gotten a bigger handle on that, but God, Amazon Prime just crushes me sometimes. But I've gotten a handle on that. And then the other one is social media still. So I mentioned that
Right.
I'll not doom scroll. I tell myself it's productive because it's LinkedIn, but I'll scroll through LinkedIn and try to respond and make connections there. And then I, look up and an hour has passed and it's like, well, shoot,
Oh.
what did I really do with that time? So my not to-do list includes don't get on Amazon during the day. If I get on social media, make sure I set an end limit. So an alarm to say if I'm going to get on LinkedIn, I'm off in 15 minutes. I'm not going to get distracted by doing the dishes or whatever.
Oh, fun. All right.
So knowing what you're not going to do is almost just as important, because then you have to deliberately remind yourself, nope, I'm not going to do that, so you can stay on task.
Interesting. I was just listening to a stand-up comic. I want to say Zoltan. I should remember his name. Zach Zoltan, something like that. He was talking about getting the packages from Amazon, and he's like, oh, I must have felt depressed 2 days ago. I did some therapy shopping.
That's so true, though. Some of us do therapy shopping.
Yeah, it was kind of
absolutely.
funny. It's like, I wonder why I was feeling bad.
Well, good for him for analyzing his
Yeah,
feelings.
right? Well,
Yeah.
that's what stand-up comics do, right? Figure it out.
Exactly.
Observe.
All right. So another thing you can do to help you get more done in less time is create boundaries. And there's all sorts of boundaries you can create, but my biggest boundary is in relationship to time.
All right.
I shut off work at 5 o'clock so I can go pick up my kids
Okay.
at 5:15. I typically don't take meetings before 9:30 because I have a morning routine. I get my kids out of the house, I get my workout in, I do all the things, and then try to start my day about 9:30.
Nice.
So those are my boundaries, and then I know within 9:30 and 5, that's what I'm working with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to do a bunch of networking stuff at night,
Yeah.
but then when we had a kid, night stuff is gone. Just no more. So it'd be interesting because a lot of people would reach out and say, James, you going to this thing?
Right.
I'm like, I'm not.
If
'Cause
it happens
it's-
before 5, great.
Yeah, if
Before.
it's before 5, then we're cool.
Yeah.
Then we're golden all day long, right?
Exactly.
We'll network the pants off of stuff. But but the night stuff is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, it's extremely rare, which is weird. It was just a different feeling because before you used to get all your work done. What I suppose you would expand, right? It would take all this time because you would network at night.
Yeah.
Now you got to network during the day, so that means that your work day, the time that you have to actually get your tasks done, is now shrunk.
Right?
But we still get it done. So I don't know. I guess it works out.
Yeah, it does. But that's interesting because I have also started setting boundaries on what days I will take meetings or what days I'll do networking on. So I need at least 2 days at home uninterrupted by meetings.
All right.
So I try to do that on Mondays and on Thursdays.
So those are your meeting days, or those are the
Those are my
meeting
meeting-free days.
Meeting-free days, okay.
Typically.
All right.
And it flexes, but as long as I have 2 meeting-free days in a week, then I feel I can get my meaningful work done.
I like it.
And then I try to take client calls on certain days again, because some of it is due to the fact that, I need to have a day where I need to send out an email or I need to be able to strategically plan or look at cash flow or any of those things. But there's other days where I want to be on, and that takes a whole different mindset. So I might need to prep myself very differently. If I'm going into an afternoon of client calls, I'm going to make sure that I'm centered so I can show up well for them.
Nice. All right. Yeah, today I have another podcast, networking thing, meeting with managers. So it's just boom, boom, boom.
You are
doing
on
stuff.
all day.
I have to be.
Yeah.
Whether I like it or not.
Well, and that's interesting because another tip we have for you to do more in less time is batching, right? So this idea of creating space for work to get done at the same time. So this is like your on-stage day where you have to be in front of people, you're performing, but then you have your backstage days, where you're working on the business, or you have your team development days.
Right. Yeah, yesterday I got to wear shorts and a t-shirt to work. Today I didn't get that lucky.
Yeah.
So it was one of those, yesterday you can take the fun car, today you got to go to work. So it was very nice to plan it that way, and it just, I guess now that you mentioned that, I did do that on purpose because it's much easier to have a day where you're just boom, 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 boom.
Getting all the things done.
And then you're surrounded on either side of the day, like yesterday and tomorrow, where I have time to mop up all the stuff that happened during today when I don't have time.
Yeah, that's a
take
great
care of
point. I was reading something where people who are speakers or authors and they're on all the time do have an admin day so you can actually get to your big 3 every day, but you still need a day to mop up some of those things. I got to fill out this form for my accountant, or I got to do this reconciliation of my books, whatever it is. Setting aside a day just to do all of those odds and ends is so helpful, because not that it's brainless work, you still need your brain, but it's a different place, and then it doesn't have to distract you the rest of the week.
Yeah, the challenge there, and I do that Fridays is my day to catch up on that.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because you don't have anyone, as an entrepreneur, right? You don't have anyone looking over your shoulder telling you, fill out this dopey form.
Do the thing,
right?
yeah.
I was just joking with someone because we deal with multiple employees in multiple states.
Yeah.
And every state's a little bit different. And I'm I feel like some of these states feel like all we do is just sit here and wait for paperwork to show up. Oh my God, it's brutal. Brutal.
It's awful.
Yeah. So I hired out a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't doing it. Because it was one of those where I'm just I'll get to that. And I don't. And that's whatever. Payroll tax. It's just probably a big deal.
Yeah.
So just
minor details.
hire that. Yeah, it's not this is an ad for whatever, advertising on this thing.
Right.
I don't care. I'll ignore it. We'll worry about something else. But taxes you kind of got to take care of.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So it's just hire someone to take care of that so you make sure it gets done.
Yeah, but you bring up another great point of this whole idea of time freedom, right? So we're talking about how you can do more in less time so you actually have freedom. Is you don't have to do all the things.
Outsource.
Right? Outsource. What a great concept. I went to this retreat, it's been about a month ago now, but she took us through this amazing exercise that was the cost of not delegating.
Oh, interesting.
And it was so insightful. So if you think just pick a random hourly rate, whatever you think you're worth. You're probably worth more than you think. But let's say, you choose you're worth $200 an hour. Cool. And those payroll taxes, I don't know how many forms you get, but let's say those are going to take you 4 hours this week. Well, that's going to cost you $800. What's it cost you to hire a VA or, a bookkeeper or something to fill that out? Even if it's $100 or $50, well, that's $200 to $400. So that's cheaper for you than you spending your time doing that.
Sure.
And I think so many of us think that when we start a business, my biggest asset is time. I'll just do the thing because I don't have the money to spend.
All right.
But if you look at your time as an asset of like, I'm actually losing money if I do that thing, and it's going to take me longer to do it, it really is an eye-opening
Fair.
experience.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
I was selling some rims on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
Because I had some winter rims from a different car.
Okay.
I put them out there for $300, just get rid of them.
Uh-huh.
And this guy, right, Facebook is like the cesspool of dirt balls, right, on Marketplace. It's like bot. And then, is this still available? Like, no, I just put ads up for fun. Anyways, this guy reaches out and he's like, hey, will you take 200? Like, no other questions asking about the product, right? They're just going, like, these kids don't know how to negotiate at all. So anyways, I'm like, if you can pick them up today, because I don't give without a get.
Yeah.
Right, that's a rule in the sales training that I had. So he's like, can you bring them to Baraboo?
Whoa.
Which is hour away, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you're asking me to lower the price by 33% and take at least 2 hours out of my life and hope that you show up at whatever parking lot we decide. And I'm like, are you 10? Like, you gotta check your mom, make sure you have this allowance to cover this, because this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. So I kind of started to play with him like a yarn ball and a cat. And I was like,
Poor kid.
I was like, nah, but I'll meet you in Sun Prairie. And he's like, I was hoping you would come to Baraboo. And I said, well, hope's a feeling, it'll go away. So I was kind of having fun with this kid. But it was interesting because at first I thought, is he serious? He was totally serious.
It's amazing.
And I'm like, okay, for $200, I could have done more productive work and earned more than $200 in a couple hours.
Right.
Plus, if he didn't show up, I'd have to do it again with some other clown.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, I would be better off just putting these rims in the trash or leaving them, just giving them away somewhere else locally than to deal with this clown.
Oh my gosh, that's a great point.
So whatever.
Good for you though for going through that exercise, because how many people would just be like, oh, just get rid of this thing, like just get rid of the thing.
Yeah.
One area that I find this in, my mom tends to hang on to things, and it's more of like our things from when we were younger that she
your
can't
third
let
grade
go
test?
of. Oh my gosh, report cards, yearbooks, all the things. Or there are things that she got from her family that she wants to eventually give us.
All right, her third grade tests?
Yeah, maybe not that. Like her great grandma's china, or this china cabinet, or this chair that, so, and they all have emotional value. That's great. But it's also like, at what point do I need to hang on to all of these things that have emotional value? Can I hang on to a few things that have emotional value and not fill up my house with everyone else's junk? So I tell her, Mom, I don't know how much stuff I want. Like, I have memories of you. She's not going anywhere, but I feel like parents get to a certain point where they just go through this thing I've learned.
No one lives forever.
Right. So she's being realistic, and I appreciate her for that. But there's certain situations where I sit there and I'm like, it's not even worth my time to come down and get that from you, to take it back up here. But I know that there's like relational equity in serving you,
nice.
right? Because you're my mom.
All right.
But sometimes I'm just like, can I tell you I'm going to take the thing and then take the thing to Goodwill? Because then it's not that emotional stress on me of like, great, now I have one more thing in my basement I got to figure out what I'm going to do with, or now it's going to sit in my basement until my kids have to throw it away someday.
Relational equity, I love that. That's funny.
But again, there's this idea of there's the time, but there's also the stress of like that thing just hanging over your head.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rule is money in the bank beats junk in the garage. Right?
That's a great rule.
Or junk in the basement, whatever.
Yes.
So we covered a lot of ground here.
We did, yeah. And hopefully helping you find ways to do more in less time. And I think ultimately, we both talk a lot about time savings and about time freedom. So whether you're going to delegate it or you're going to create boundaries to get the right things done, hopefully you found some value in this today.
Get it done. I love it. This has been Diary of a Worthy Pursuit,
where we help you get what you truly want in life and in business.